At the age of 22, I left my 9 to 5 finance job and became a full-time entrepreneur and business owner. And I do believe that reading books over the last 5 years contributed heavily to my mission in becoming an entrepreneur. So in this video, I'm going to detail 10 of my favorite books that I do believe every single entrepreneur should read. These books are in no particular order. So let's get into it with book number 1, The 4-Hour Workweek. One of my favorite books that I read a couple of years ago. And the reason this book is so important to entrepreneurs is it's important to show the power of delegation. I love this quote. Basically, how it goes is do what you're best at and delegate the rest. And what I mean by this is a lot of entrepreneurs actually, more than being entrepreneurs, end up just being managers of their own business. If you're an entrepreneur that can go on holiday for 2 weeks and your business does not function without you, that is not entrepreneurship. That is you just being a manager, basically. The true goal of entrepreneurship is taking your time away from the business, basically not tying your time to income, because that's what every entrepreneur wants. They want the freedom of not needing to actually put in hours of work and that being directly correlated to how much money goes into their bank account. And how this book portrays that is actually the power of, number one, hiring people. So in the book, the person talks about, I believe it's Tim Ferriss that wrote it, talks about the power of actually hiring VAs and virtual assistants from lower income countries to do the work for you, because their $4 an hour, for example, is equivalent to $15, $20 an hour in a high income country like the UK, USA, for example. So it makes sense, therefore, to outsource a lot of your work cheaply abroad when it can be done so. Obviously, not the high level thinking stuff. And the second thing, of course, is being able to actually integrate SOPs, standard operating procedures, so you can step away from your business and your business can function without you. Because as an entrepreneur, the power comes from you having the thinking skills, not actually putting your time in to make stuff function. Other people should be doing the day-to-day work for you to keep the operation functioning. You need to be having the thinking skills to make the core decisions, which is at the heart of the business. So big book to read, The 4-Hour Workweek. I definitely recommend it if you're starting out in this entrepreneurship journey. The second book is The Lean Startup, and it's one right literally in the middle of my shelf right there. And the only reason I read this book, I got this book gifted to me by my auntie, was because I have co-founded an AI tool called Verlo, which helps short form creators go viral. And the Lean Startup is basically all about startups, right? And this is my first time actually doing a quote unquote startup, because my online business is related to social media. I will not classify it as a startup, but this is the first time I've actually got my hands dirty in an actual startup business where we've got employees, we've got developers, etc. We're building a product, we're testing it out there. And a lean startup just basically tells you every mistake that most startups make. And it's things like spending too much time thinking about making the product and not enough time actually testing it. Build, measure, learn is basically what the lean startup talks through. And that's a powerful concept, right? You build something, you test it out there, you measure how it works, and you learn from it. Doing that on repeat is what's going to iterate and make the best possible product. And reading a lean startup actually opened my eyes a lot to the fact that you cannot really be a perfectionist in this SaaS game or in the software game or in any startup. You've got to just put a product out there, put it out there, learn from it, test out how the customers react, and then learn from that. That's far better than just thinking and basically being ultra perfectionist, then releasing the product and realizing the market does not even want it. You've got to get as much feedback as early as possible, and then you can use that feedback to mold your products. Okay, book number 3, The Art of War. It's at the bottom of my shelf right around there. Now, The Art of War by Sun Tzu is without a doubt the oldest book on this list. I'm pretty sure it was written in BC. Like that's how far back we're going. Like proper old school. So this guy Sun Tzu was a Chinese like war sort of like general. And The Art of War, despite the fact it's thousands of years old, still has principles that can be used today. It's all about basically just one-ing up your enemy. And I do believe that war has direct correlation to business. I think anyone that says otherwise is not thinking correctly. Like, of course, like war, just like a lot of things in life, has direct correlations and has lessons you can derive from it. Like, I would rather be a gardener. Sorry, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, right? Like that makes complete sense. People understand that. And I think The Art of War plays off that. So you've got certain lessons. Like the lesson I love from this is basically when you've got your enemy at their lowest point, keep your foot on their neck and basically just cut all supply. A lot of people, they relax when they're in a winning position. When they're far ahead of their enemy, they just relax to take their foot off the gas. That is the moment when you should be actually putting your foot on their neck and making sure they stay down. And this is so true even through sports, right? Like you could be 2-3-0 up in a football game, or you could be 20 points up in an NBA game, or you could be 2 touchdowns up in an NFL game. But as long as there's still time on that clock, the opponent can come back from it, unless you're in garbage time, right? So that is not the time to ease off. That is the time to actually put your foot down and make sure you kill that game off. Because one other play in another direction and momentum can completely swing. And we've seen that in football matches, basketball matches, American football matches, any sport on this planet. You give your opponent a little bit of life, even when they thought they were dead and buried, and that's all they need. A little bit of that crack in that door, and they can push it right open and basically just take advantage. So in business, if you've got an advantage, take advantage of it. But basically take advantage of the advantage and don't ever rest up and relax until it's time to do so. Like if you're in the process of doing something, that's not the time to relax. It's a time to go full gas pedal and complete it to its full extent. Okay, book number 4, what they don't teach you at Harvard Business School. I really like this book. I like all things to do with business and entrepreneurship. And this book, the power of it I learned was actually how important branding is. You see, I always used to look at branding from like a simple standpoint. Like I see an advert on TV. Do I like the product? Do I not like the product? But this book really opened my eyes to the subconscious and subliminal messaging that all these brands do. Like for example, when you look at Rolex, there was a case study in this book, right? Rolex only sponsors Wimbledon, Formula One. There's a reason Rolex does not sponsor boxing or football/soccer. There's a reason for that. Why? Because is the connotations that comes with it. When you put your brand in certain places, it derives certain connotations, right? Like Wimbledon and Formula One is seen as wealthy, high-class sports, which therefore has clear connotations to Rolex. So when Rolex is positioned there, it feeds into that. And same vice versa with the sports, right? F1 and Wimbledon is seen as high class because Rolex is sponsoring it as well. Whereas football/soccer is not seen as a high class sport. Therefore, it doesn't make sense for Rolex to sponsor it. It's the same for Aston Martin, right? James Bond drives an Aston Martin. Therefore, Aston Martin is seen as a luxury car, and vice versa. James Bond is seen as a luxury, high class person because he drives an Aston Martin. It goes hand in hand. There's a reason I want to drive an Aston Martin. I don't want to drive a Nissan Micra, right? It's a James Bond-esque car. So if you've got a business, where are you positioning yourself? Because if you appeal to the masses, you're actually going to turn a lot of people off. And it makes more sense to actually restrict who you appeal to and make your brand be positioned to a point where it's actually appealing to high class people that can pay you more money and have that look. How many times have you seen a product or a service or clothing, for example, that looks real luxury, then it kind of just gets saturated, mass marketed, and it loses its appeal, right? Like what was once a luxury product, now everyone's got it and no one wants it anymore. If everyone can have it, no one wants it. The demand for it is there because of the constriction of supply. Not everyone can have it. Not everyone can have a Rolex. Not everyone can have an Aston Martin car. Not everyone can have a Lamborghini, a Porsche, a Bugatti, etc. That's what makes it so powerful, right? So if you've got a business, if you've got some sort of service or product you're offering, think about where you pitch it. And the Harvard Business School, well, what they don't teach you there, the book taught me a lot about that and the positioning of branding. That's the biggest lesson I learned. Okay, the next book on this list, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I think the second ever like business/self-help book I read. And I really liked it. I was a bit mixed going into it because the title was a little bit odd, like How to Win Friends and Influence People. It just sounds like really weird and manipulative. But when I read the book, I was actually pleasantly surprised. It was a really good book. And the biggest lesson I learned from that book is when it comes to life is a people game. And when it comes to people, the little things matter a lot. Like when you're talking to someone, next time you get introduced to someone, think, did you actually remember their name? Because a lot of people actually don't. They say, hello, my name's Dennis. Your name is Tom, Jeff, whatever. Then 30 seconds later, you've forgotten their name. And it happens to a lot of people. So little things like when you greet someone, greet them with their name, like, hi, how are you? And like, hi, Dennis, how are you? Or hi, Jessica, how are you? Something like that, right? Like say their actual name. And then the second thing is just remember little things about someone. Like what's their son's favorite football team? What's the breed of their dog? Something like that. So when you go meet them next time, oh, what's your chihuahua up to? What was the score on the weekend with Chelsea or Arsenal, etc. Do you know what I mean? Like little things like that, or the LA Lakers, right? Like remember little things about someone because it goes a long way, and a lot of people just don't bother to do that. Life is a people game, and the more you actually get to know people, meet people, and you might be a big introvert, but even as an introvert, you can do these things. It will set you up far further because people always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I do believe that's true to an extent. I do believe you need to know stuff as well, right? But you might as well, as much as possible, maximize who you know. And the best way to meet people and get on people's good sides is just to care about them. Because I know it sounds very, very like minor and it sounds like something you should just be doing by automatic, like by default, but a lot of people just don't. They just don't care, to be honest. So showing even an ounce of care, an ounce of appreciation, listening to people, taking the time out of your day to actually sit there and openly, actively listen, not passively, actively listen to someone, they will remember that and it will go a long, long way. Next book on this list, Atomic Habits. Now, I'm going to summarize this whole book in about 30 seconds, so you don't need to read it. The Power of Atomic Habits basically says, change your environment because your environment actually changes a lot of factors about you, and the power of compound interest. Now, everyone understands compound interest, right? Like, as in, like, you invest £1 and then that £1 becomes £1.20, and that £1.20 then gets compounded again to £1.50, etc., etc. Everyone understands that, right? But even compound interest in terms of habits, like going to the gym for 10 minutes a day, then that can roll over into 15, 20 minutes, right? Doing an extra 20 minutes of reading a day has far better implications. It's like it's the power of like 37th or something along that, right? That those are the rules. So those are the two key aspects. I've got a funny story to go along with this and kind of proves Atomic Habits right. There was a game I used to play about like 3-4 years ago called Wordle. You may know it. It's on the phone, the word game, right? And I always used to play Wordle on the toilet, right? It was just one of those things. I used to go on the toilet and play Wordle. That was my thing, right? It was just the routine I had. And then I remember one day I was in my bedroom. I was a bit bored. I think it was like I was about to go sleep, and I opened up Wordle to play it, and I needed to go toilet there and then. I didn't need to go toilet before, but as soon as I opened the Wordle app, I needed to go toilet. And the reason is because my brain had connected playing Wordle with going toilet. So even though I didn't need to go toilet, as soon as I opened my Wordle app or Wordle website, my brain thought, okay, cool, time to go toilet now. It's so funny how it works like that. Like, I genuinely did not need to go toilet. As soon as I opened Wordle, I needed to go toilet. So that shows how important your environment is. So if you've got bad habits or good habits, more often than not, it's linked to your environment. Like, if you're playing video games, what is causing that? If you restrict the supply, if you change your environment, you change that. And that even goes into bad influences around you. Like, if you're hanging around people that are bringing the worst out of you, don't hang around them. Like, they are causing that. The environment is what affects you. So as much as possible, curate a positive environment, and that will positively impact your life. Next book on this list, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Now, Naval Ravikant is one of the best thinkers of our generation. He goes on so many podcasts and gives so much powerful insights. And the biggest lesson I learned from that book is basically to set a price point for yourself. Like, what is the price point you set yourself as? And don't be afraid to set it high. Like, it could be $500 an hour. And if an activity is below your price point, do not do it. So a lot of people say, oh, you should be going and cleaning your room and making food, etc., etc. But really and truly, if that is a low ROI activity for you, in your opinion, you might as well outsource it and hire it to someone else to do, and you focus on what you're good at, because life is too short to be doing everything and anything, right? You might as well double down on what you're good at and outsource what you're not good at. Kind of linking back to the first book on this list, The 4-Hour Workweek, which is right there. So Naval Ravikant basically just said that, basically, what is your price point for an hour, and focus on activities that fulfill that price point and outsource stuff that don't. Beyond this, also making sure that people talk about wasted time, like you're playing video games, or you're going to the cinema, or you're wasting time, you're not working, or you're not studying. I think his book actually made me like rethink that. And if you're enjoying something, it's not a waste of time. People think that if you're not doing something productive, it's instantly a waste of time. Unless you're sitting there and working, you're wasting time. That's not true. Like, you can be sitting there and playing video games, and that's a productive use of time, because that's something you genuinely enjoy doing. And if that's a moment of rest for you and a moment of enjoyment, how is that wasted time? Who am I to say you're wasting time playing video games if that's what you enjoy doing on the weekend, right? So if you enjoy doing something, it's not wasted time. But of course, it comes with having a balance and make sure that the other time you're doing stuff productively. Like, it's better off you work 8 hours full on deep flow, and then you have 4 or 5 hours of break time where you're enjoying yourself. None of that time is wasted. That's better than working 14 hours a day doing the same task over and over and over again just because you want to be productive. Next book, The 48 Laws of Power. Now, the most controversial book on this list. You may have seen people talk about it, YouTube videos, etc., about how this book is dangerous and manipulative. And I do agree to an extent. It can be classed as a dangerous book, but I still recommend every entrepreneur to read it, because each of these lessons have direct links to business, direct links. Little things like the little lesson I love, right, is never like outshine the master. Like, if you've got a boss at work, if you've got a manager, don't be sitting there trying to outdo them, because you're going to get evil eye from that sort of person, right? Just make sure you always make the people around you look good. That's a little thing I do as well. And it's not even 48 Laws of Power. I just do this anyway, right? Like, if I've had someone that works for me do something good, I go out of my way to say, yeah, you've done a great job. Even publicly, I praise them and say, yeah, this person's doing really well. My thumbnail designer makes fantastic thumbnails. My editor makes fantastic edits. Go out of your way to praise people, because then they'll want to stick by you as well. No one wants someone that just discredits and just hates on people all the time. That's not the sort of person you want to be around. If you're around someone and they always say, oh, this person's a pain to be around, this person's a menace, I hate working with this person, I mean, common denominator says that you're probably the bad person in that, because if you're always having problems, who's the common denominator? Probably you, right? No one wants to hang around those sort of people, and you don't want to hang around them because then you're worried that they'll start talking in that way about you. So the best possible thing to do is just always, as much as possible, speak kindly and positively about others, because that reflects back on you and people actually get gravitated and attracted towards you because of that. Next book on this list, Think and Grow Rich. I like this book as well. I like this book because it basically goes back to my principles, which is, if you can do anything in this world, if you set your mind to it and you truly believe it. And Think and Grow Rich, I know it's got that typical self-help book, like visualize it, manifest it, and it will happen. I know what you're probably thinking, right? But genuinely, I do think that is possible. But you've got to deeply believe it. And you cannot fabricate this stuff. I can say I'm going to be a millionaire and say it like a robot drone voice, but that's different to me actually fundamentally believing it is going to happen. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if. And if you genuinely think that you can make it happen, it will happen. Like, read this book. There's case studies there of people that have made the impossible possible. So definitely read this book, Think and Grow Rich. It talks about all about the internal beliefs and how your inside sort of power and belief is so important to making things happen. And if you don't have a peaceful inner core and like an optimistic inner core, then you're going to struggle to actually be successful in this world. And then, of course, The Psychology of Money, the final book on this list. The Psychology of Money is an interesting book because when I read it going into it, it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And since reading it, I've actually changed back perspectives. Like, it was a book that I'm happy I read, but I don't necessarily agree with everything it said. Like, so The Psychology of Money, basically, one of the greatest lessons from it is, what you can do is, if you bring your humility, or like basically if you live below your living standards, you can save a lot of money. That's like the difference you get, right? But my thought process has always been, why am I going to sit there and save money when I only live once, right? Like, 50% of the money you save for another 50 years, 50% of money you save for the next 50 days. That's a good way of thinking about it. Like, imagine you're going to die in 50 days or 50 years, then split your money 50-50 between those two factors. And the reason I say that is because I'm 23 years old, right? And it's way cooler at 23 years old driving a Porsche or a Mercedes-Benz than doing it at 53 years old. Let's be honest. Like, a 53-year-old driving a Mercedes-Benz is standard. A 22, 23-year-old driving a Lamborghini, Bugatti, Mercedes-Benz, that's much cooler, right? Do you get what I mean? So a lot of times I disagree with some of the lessons in The Psychology of Money, but I still think it's a worthwhile read because it does set a lot of foundations for how money works and how the human psychology, well, it says The Psychology of Money, right? The human psychology between spending, investing, saving money, that school just does not teach you. So a good read, definitely, but don't have it as a set in stone book. Actually, I'd recommend looking at more things and thinking about your personal propensity to spend money versus saving versus investing. I'm very heavy in investing. I invest a lot of money. I max out my stocks and shares ISA every single year I can. Whereas I know a lot of friends around me just don't even bother investing a penny. They just save and spend. That's it. Save and spend, save and spend. Whereas I'm a lot of spend and invest, and I don't really save as much. But that rounds up my 10 favorite books I believe every entrepreneur should read. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and also let me know any books that you are reading in the comment section as well. I'd love to hear it. And if you want to check out 10 movies that I believe every entrepreneur should watch, check out the video right beside me.